So what makes a beautiful business a beautiful business? It's a Venn diagram. Your strength, the competitor's weakness, and the customer demand. The intersection of that is a business, right? When your strength is saying that I am trustworthy, and their business model is I don't trust you. Like you can like dance all up and down. Sundar Pichai can come and say I'm not an extractive economy, but everyone you talk to in the brand world, they would say like these guys rip me every day for SEO optimization. They will only like put the guys who gave me most money up, and everyone is like deflate because it's extraction, right? uh, Good guy, he's doing the right thing by his shareholders. In fact, great guy, I admire him a lot, and but bound by his shareholders commitments. So they can never say like please trust me. Amazon can never say I care about humans. They don't. If they did, they would not like fire like 16,000 people. They would have retrained them. They would have like led them into the economy in a better way, right? So they never did any of those things. So they can never say there is they are trustworthy, and we are building a trust layer.
Today's episode is proudly brought to you by Effortless. Effortless is the ultimate solution for startups and SMBs seeking seamless money management and compliance handling. Effortless wasn't just created by anyone. It was crafted by chartered accountant turned entrepreneurs who understand the pulse of startups and SMBs. Visit www.goeffortless.ai and embark on a journey that will redefine the way you do business.
Hi, Shekhar. Thanks for coming in and being a guest in the ContraMinds podcast. It's an absolute privilege having you as a guest, and thanks for taking time in the midst of your schedule. The fact that you've come from the US, and I know you're very, very busy with the AI Summit, but you've come in and given me your time. So thanks a lot, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you so much, Swaminathan sir.
So, Shekhar, I just was extremely inspired looking at your background, the body of work that you've done. And I wanted to kind of kick off this conversation with the fact that you have about close to 150 patents, and this is across supply chain, various domains. And how do you really look at, how do you come up with these patterns, especially when they are from diverse domains? So, where is the starting point for your thinking, and what's the operating system that you actually apply to actually get somewhere to where you have reached today?
I guess like it's an interesting question. A lot of my ideas, to be honest with you, are really function of three things.
Mm-hmm.
First is the sort of the nurturing where I came from. Okay. The second is the context you get placed into.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the third, I would say, is the value and the virtue that like my parents were able to instill.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The combination of those three things is largely the reason why I have been on this incredible journey in my life. And I cannot take credit for everything or anything I have done. It was all those questions that kid like a 3-year-old like questions that people ask, leaders ask of you, which actually results in you having a deeper thought of why are they asking it, is it relevant, and what are the consequences of those. And so to be able to probe and get into that was the reason why I was able to create those inventions in the first place, and they had like some meaningful and very profound effect. So let's unpack each of these three things, right? Now, the first one is the nurturing, right? So if I look at my own experience, I grew up in slums in India, in fact, like right around here, in Secunderabad, and it's the second biggest slum in India. Okay. So, and my father used to deliver telegrams for 175 rupees. My mother was largely she did not have schooling, but school doesn't really determine your wisdom and intelligence scale in life. It is like your practical experiences that actually is important. So she was like padikada medavi in Tamil, which is meaning you're the uneducated, intelligent, wisdom person, right? And so for me, having grown up in that context, everything that we had to do was think beyond our existing means that we were provided. Like example, I used to, when I was a kid, and we couldn't afford like textbooks or formal education or like any of those things, and my mother and my father had to fight for every one of those things. It's very typical of every Indian family here. Like the mother pawns the jewelry, the father is working hard. The guy who's the servant maid's kid actually becomes a GM of some factory. It's a common story everyone can relate to. And so my story is very similar like that. So my mother would actually took me to the printing press, Deccan Chronicle. And I used to look at these printing machines, offset printing machines. And I was very fascinated by looking at the printing machines. And I would say, this is so cool. And I used to ask my mom, what does it do? So she used to say it prints. So, and then I thought why can't I print? And then I would go sit, and I learned how to take a textbook and create a mirror image of this textbook. Right? Like literally I could sketch. Okay. And then that book, I made sure, and my mother made sure, not only I read that, but everyone who's in the same neighborhood, who's actually aspiring to go into education and wants to access knowledge, has an access to that. Right. So that was actually built I want to have in those days having Ganesha in the neighborhood used to be a very big thing. So instead of going and asking everyone for money and contribution, because we were all from slums, who can contribute to who? Right. So we used to assemble mechanical parts and build mechanical Ganesha. And this is when I was a 9-year-old kid, 10-year-old kid, 11-year-old kid, so I think that context actually gave me, that nurturing actually gave me the ingenuity to think beyond what is you take for granted mostly. When you have 10 rupees and you want to buy Ganesha, you'll go buy Ganesha from the market. But when you don't have 10 rupees and you want you have fascination to build a Ganesha, you will build a Ganesha.
So working within constraints.
Absolutely. That's the first. And so that is the nurture piece of it, right? The second one is the context piece of it. So all companies that I worked for make money despite themselves.
Great.
Right? So they are so lethargic. There is so much waste. There is so much organizational this
trophy.
And also the companies which were built, the founder who built it, and the early members who built it, they have created something remarkable, and everyone is riding on that. It's like a legacy ride, right?
Correct.
Your father was the richest guy and then you live a lavish life. That is exactly what most companies are actually doing today, right? So so they rarely ask the question, the context of how we operate, is it even relevant for today's condition? Right? So Coke used to operate the same way that it operated in 1970. Right? They used to have a truck where all the products is assembled like a warehouse on a truck. And they used to have a guy who's like, 250 pounds. He's driving the truck. He's opening every bay and every bin. And he's taking the product, running it into the store. Well, that's a very old way of thinking.
Yeah.
Right? And particularly when you had only 10 products, easy to fetch. But when you have 1,000 products, very difficult to fetch because like everything is buried. Now you're like spending like 10 times as much or 100 times as much.
Yeah.
So the cost of doing business just goes up significantly. So people rarely think, when was this created? In what context it was created? And are we operating in the same reality? And where is the future heading? And when you ask that question and when you understand the assumptions, you begin to unpack. That unpacking should be done in a way that you focus on the fundamentals. Right? So if the truck is a warehouse, well, the work never belongs on the road. It actually belongs in the warehouse.
Yeah.
Right? So bring back the work to the warehouse and build it in a way that it could be delivered with one touch, not with 37 touches. So every one of my businesses that I worked for had this context misalignment problem.
Yeah. And allowing you to really pushing yourself to say, let me think from first principles.
Absolutely. Right? And then because there are also 2 or 3 things at play at that time, right? The confluence of where the technology is, right? What is the need of the hour for the time that you're actually innovating and into the future? Can you see the future? So you got to have a little bit of prism into the future.
Yeah.
And then the third one is basically like, how do you create an organization that is accepting of the change? Because change is very difficult and antibodies usually kick in with change.
Correct.
Right? So now mastering that art was very critical. And because I got thrown early into my career into that sector. So think about beverages. Beverages in 2000 in United States was all soda in 90s. Even today it is.
Yeah.
But in 2000s, there was a conscious revolution that was happening about putting health first.
Yeah.
So people were going to healthier choices, which means diversified product portfolio. You don't not only sell cola, but you also sell like fruit juice.
Yeah.
You also sell water. You also sell energy drinks. You also sell chips, and you also sell other like snacks and other things. So as a CPG company, a consumer products good company, you have to diversify. That way, your business, which was actually generating cash by selling cola, if it's not the future, and if that's where people are headed, healthy choices, then how do you create an infrastructure which is able to accommodate that? And so we had to go innovate on all these fronts. Okay. And then the third one is the virtues and the values that you grow up with. My mother, actually, I went to a Jesuit school. My mother knew this amazing reporter because my mother also was working in Deccan Chronicle, and literally her job was to strip the ad, pin the ad, and basically send an invoice. Okay. So she knew the reporters, and the reporters' uncle used to run St. Patrick's High School. Okay. And so both my brothers got lucky and they ended up going to the school. Then they said you are the third son. You can't get in. And they asked me what is this color? I kept saying it's blue. It was gray. So then they said obviously rejected, third son. And there was obviously at that time, right, when you come from slums, people were more fascinated about what religion you belong to, and the ask was, can we change our affiliation to the religion, which we did not want to. Right? So my mother thought it was unjust for me to be rejected because of those reasons, And the fact that both my brothers are going to go to a better school than I, she wasn't going to take that for granted. And she stood like 365 days in front of the headmaster's school, office every day during the Mars. She wouldn't protest. She would just stand there till that guy got basically completely vexed and said, you know what, like, bring your son and join him.
Fantastic.
Okay. So that persistence, and when we could not afford education, she pawned her wedding ring. So this is the Met, right? And that is a symbol of the fact that someone chose her. Right? That's her identity. Like a woman's identity is the marriage when she's when she's married to someone, that someone actually thinks of that person as their own. That's the representation. And she's willing to give that up on the unknown future I had. Right? So when you have that sort of mindset, then everything that you do every day, it subconsciously is imprinted in your brain that you don't want to let that person down. And so was my father's sacrifices. So that virtue and the values that they created, which is one of hard work, one of persistence, one of basically being empathetic. And empathy doesn't mean that, like, you have to simply listen to everyone and basically agree with everything they're saying.
Yeah.
It is about, like, having a point of view, but like understanding others' point of view at the same time.
Exactly.
Right? Like, so that sort of like the framing of what I had is the genesis for why I became who I became in my life. Nothing in life is coincidence. Everything in life is contractual. You in this world, you already have come with a contract. You have decided before you came who's your father, who's your mother, what context, how are you going to, the fact that, like, I lived in slums, preordained. The fact that, like, basically I worked for all these companies, preordained. It was just that angels showed up in my life along the journey and they opened the doors for me. And I had unconsciously, like, got into problems where I was able to explore new ideas for new companies. And when you are constantly living in that loop and you're only focused on that loop, then you become what you just told, which is to be able to be an innovator, the unconscious innovator.
Yeah. No, which really gives me a beautiful segue to what you're doing now, the Angelic Intelligence platform that you're building. And I just wanted to first unpack this thing between, the transformers and the typical, AI tech that is there. Can you just unpack what are the two things and how different are they?
Yeah.
And then I'll come back to the question of why Angelic Intelligence is very, very different from how the other platforms are getting built today. So we'll come back to that. But if you can unpack the first question of mine.
So artificial intelligence, a lot of people think, arrived in 2023 when ChatGPT just, like, came to the, but not necessarily. It's 1956, 1955, 56, where, 4 professors and scientists in Dartmouth University had actually started playing with machines, teaching them, like, how to behave. Okay. This is basically like Nathan Rochester, Shannon Claude, Marvin Minsky, and then the fourth guy, I forget the name, it'll come to me. But, like, like the 4, like, brilliant scientists who started this whole revolution of, like, machines understanding, like, how to process. Okay. And then we've gone through sequential innovation in that. So essentially there is an input, there is a model, and an output. And all of the focus was about, like, how to make each of these 3 things better over a period of time. That was the journey of the last 4 decades, right? So 56, to 66 to 76 to 86 to and then you get into this era of optimization. Which is which is where I grew up. I went to Kanpur Genetic Algorithms Lab. It was called Kangal.
Okay.
There was a professor called Kalyan Maidev, very famous guy, and primarily he was the first guy to start thinking about genetic algorithms to start predicting things.
Okay.
Right, how you could do failure mode effective analysis and all of that for mechanical engineering aspects of it. How do you think about brakes, and how do you think about manufacturing, and bring that philosophy of genetic algorithms into that process. Very phenomenal guy. So that then there was this revolution of machine learning, right? Teaching the machines to be begin to kind of read, kind of think about the pattern recognition.
Patterns,
right? So then came this revolution of the transformer. And let's understand what a transformer is. Okay, so have you ever been to a room where there's a lot of noise?
Of course.
Of course. And then your friend calls you all of a sudden, and you recognize the friend's voice, right? And then you automatically know you have to pay attention to the friend.
Exactly.
Right? So that in essence is the transformer technology.
Fantastic. Brilliant analogy. And most of the fundamental concepts, Shekhar, is about actually looking at analogies and applying those analogies to technology.
Yes. So this is exactly like that applied to words. Okay. So how does it really work? Now, if you think about if you step back and think about it, when it is reading a sentence and basically it is looking at a word, it's keying on the word. And when it looks at that word, it is basically saying how do I pay attention to that word, and what are all the other words that come after that? Right? So because your mind is grabbing the attention, it's the attention head, right? So that is essentially the transformer technology in a nutshell.
Okay.
Right? So when you say the cat is tired and is actually sleeping on the mat, or the cat is sleeping on the mat because it is tired, right? You are actually trying to infer that it is not the mat which is tired, it is the cat which is tired, right? So that ability to reason that it is cat and not the mat, right, is at the heart of all of this transformer technology. And it is almost like the way you should think about it is reading a book. You were reading one word at a time in the previous world. The machines were really taught to read one word at a time. And you're using one small torchlight to read one word at a time. Now you read the entire book, right? And then you know how to think about the knowledge on the other side. And what does it mean, right? So that is the essence of the transformer technology. It is as profound as what electricity is. So in electricity, you know how what electricity can do. But no one has really figured out how electricity really works.
Yeah.
Right? So transformer technology is very similar in form factor. A lot of people know the reliability of it and how it behaves and other things, but is not able to really explain why it does that way. Okay, so but that dawned on us all of a sudden. This ability to understand what the next word is, and then basically being able to respond to you, talk back to you, tell you good, bad, ugly, and all that stuff is the 2023 phenomena. Okay, so now extrapolate that 2023 phenomena into things that can happen. It's very similar to how you teach a pup. When you teach a pup, the previous world was hey puppy, sit down. The pup will sit. You tell get up, it will get up. So it is one thing at a time. It learned. Then the puppy got a little smart, and you hid a treat under a cap or some place, That fellow knows how to go fetch that. Because he knows the pattern. You you put it here, you put it there, you do this, you do that. So it is like almost training the machines to think about pictures, this, that, and understanding how it works. Now imagine the pup is going to come back and talk to you and tell you, and it can draw, it can paint, it can converse with you, right? So that is the evolution of where we are.
Okay.
So that is the transformer technology's ability to give us this unique ability to read the entire book and to be able to say, I can infer this is what you're trying to do.
It's almost like it is indexed in words, images. It's then able to predict what's the next word you will probably talk given my past context that I have, and therefore you are able to predict what would it be, and therefore it is coming back to you.
Yeah.
Right? That's really the transformer piece that you're talking about.
And so even if you talk to Jeffrey Hinton and if you talk to all of the research scientists out there and ask them, can you please explain how this works? They don't know. Like I go research whatever gets published in archive as it relates to AI, as it relates to any of the reasoning models. And so that fascination and curiosity led me to an article was done by DeepSeek 2.5 weeks ago that begins to unpack a little bit about like how this works. Like the entropy, like the energy, model, right? And like being a mechanical engineer, I found like very fascinating, like, how like transformer technology works. So that's where we are with the transformer technology and its ability. And what we're seeing is the tip of the iceberg, right? And what it is capable of. The place where this is interesting is it just like dawned on us, and everyone got fascinated with it. And it is almost like the horse has left the barn, right? And without like our understanding and our knowing of like what makes the horse.
Yeah.
And is it going to be a wild horse?
Yeah.
And which direction is it running? Like how do I ensure that it is like it's pointed in the right direction? And it is not going to run and like be a mercenary in the farmlands
And create havoc.
So and so that's where I think like all of this has happened so fast around us that it also presents opportunities for a new way of thinking, like angelic intelligence.
But how is it different from, say, the Anthropic and the OpenAI kind of models?
Very different.
So can you just talk about how is it different? Yeah.
The first is primarily like what like OpenAI and all these Anthropic guys will say. Efficiency. Put profits ahead of everything. Right? That works.
Or Google Gemini or whatever.
And you don't need like all of those guys to actually do that, by the way. The world has been doing that without them. It's called RPA. Robotic process automation. Okay. The second type of decision is more like contextual, where it is actually trying to mimic what good humans do. You and I do, debating. Hey, I know numbers say this, but I think this because my instinct says this.
It's more judgment
based. And like, how decisions are made. It is decision optimization at the core of how you and I interact as humans. And then the moral thing is like, amplifying well-being. Rarely people think about it in corporate. Right? So it's a platitude. So in those two types of problems, the second type of problem, what they say is, whenever I come up with something, I don't want to do any harm. And then the third classification of problem is let's do good. So angelic intelligence is the third form. Let's do good. Right? So efficiency, do no harm, do good. People always confuse ethical as doing good. Doing good and doing no harm is very different.
So that the second one you're talking is more an ethical AI.
Ethical AI.
Correct?
That is the ethical AI, which is what like a lot of people would say. Now, ethical AI has a problem. like, when do you talk about ethics? Not after like something happened, right? You only talk about ethics, if things go wrong, then it's too late.
Yeah.
You've already given a kid a suicide note to kill himself. Adam Reen, ChatGPT, very famous. That fellow said, like, I have depression. It said, like, here's your suicide note. And that fellow killed himself. Right? Grok undressed kids, right? And like put like a lot of pornographic material. Who's like, you have actually stripped dignity from people. The third one, which I'm talking about, do good, brings that goodness in native into the architecture. So every computation has this lens of like goodness being built into it, and then you can figure out how much good you want to be, because it's still free will. You want to be amoral, be my guest. You want to be moral, be my guest. You want to be in between, be my guest. So it's a configurable way of designing a system that helps you balance how you want to behave. Because the way you behave at the age 16 is different than the way you behave at age 20, is different than the behave like in age 40, and is very different than in the way you behave at age 60. Because your wisdom levels are very different at different levels.
Yeah.
Right? So virtue is universal in the sense the definition of a virtue is universal. The temperature of the virtue is a variable.
So would this not be available in standard platforms like, Gemini or ChatGPT or Anthropic? Because they are also releasing a whole host of, applications which are sitting on top of the base platform, I would call it. Right?
Yeah. So, great question. Again, there are three types of ways of approaching a problem. Right? When a response comes, you want to modify the response. Prompt engineering. You keep telling like when you say this, like say it this way. I didn't mean it that way. That is a prompt engineering level. And then there is the fine-tuning level. Fine-tuning level is like, basically it is skill-based. You're teaching it. Right? Like saying, hey, when I get this type of thing, like, you should like do this and all that. Right? And then there is model level, architectural. Right? So if you use a prompt-based, the prompt doesn't work. It's like a band-aid. The wound is still there, no? Right? So what we are saying is, if Google, Gemini and others have to start doing this, they have to go take everything that they have built and put it into garbage and restart all over again. And guess what? No one is going to be forgiving of that philosophy. So let me tell you why. So when OpenAI came out, it had a very purist way of like thinking about the company.
In fact, it started out like that.
Yes, exactly. They said like we want to be morally conscious.
And basically it is a non-profit.
It was a non-profit and all. And then Altmans of the world show up and basically and I guess VCs kicked in a little bit, and then like others kicked in, and then they pour gasoline on it, and then now it is like commercial. And then the first commercial version of it came out. And it became a for-profit with an interesting setup, which I don't understand. Like people still think like Sam Altman will not get any money, but I think he'll make 7% of the business from a valuation perspective and what value he gets created. And by the way, he's also it's very interesting. Like OpenAI is also investing in other startup companies that Sam Altman is the owner for. I'm working for corporate. It is called like conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Right. So there's all kinds of weirdness going on in the world right now. Circular investment strategies. And so then they said OpenAI just recently said we're going to put ads.
Yeah.
Okay. Correct. So now it's extractive. economy. Like it's extraction of economics which doesn't work. It'll be like more like a dopamine strategy, which is what happened with Facebook. And Facebook, look at where Facebook is. Like Zuckerberg did not attend AI summit, right? Zhang came and sat in the AI summit because Zuckerberg was very busy testifying that he did not kill kids. So that's the implication of being an extractive economy. So and then my friend from Anthropic, Dorio, he wrote this beautiful article, Adolescence of Technology, and like how concerned he was about the wisdom lagging, how intelligence is moving, and and taking pot shots at OpenAI, saying that no, oh, you are coming up with ads, like we don't have ads. And then he raises like $30 billion on like a $380 billion valuation, the company. And then like the next thing he says, underneath that, the press release, it says, we are under significant pressure from all of our VCs on the commercial aspect of the business. So what is coming next to OpenAI, to Anthropic? Ads.
Correct.
Right? When your revenue sources are like out, the only way you can start making money is how people traditionally have made money, which is like extractive economy. And so the reason why I say all of this is because the shareholders are relentless. No shareholder wants to be told, I'm going to make less money than I made previous year. So now, if that is the mindset that we are going to go after, taking an existing model which was built on world's garbage, which is the reasoning model today, and then say, I'm going to be morally conscious, and I'm going to be ethically aware, and I'm going to amplify human goodness. Never going to happen. Mark my words. And so think of this, Angelic Intelligence is more like a trust layer. It's a trust layer. So, because if you think the AI race, right, and the infrastructure race, it's largely over, right? OpenAI and Anthropic and Gemini, they have such a big head start, that side of the house is done, dusted. Okay. So, but what they can never stand and say is trust me. Right? So, what makes a beautiful business a beautiful business? It's a Venn diagram. Your strength, the competitor's weakness, and the customer demand, the intersection of that is a business. Right? When your strength is saying that I am trustworthy, and their business model is I don't trust you. Like you can dance all up and down. Sundar Pichai can come and say I'm not an extractive economy, but everyone you talk to in the brand world, they would say these guys rip me every day for SEO optimization.
Yeah.
They will only put the guys who gave me most money up, and everyone is deflate because it's extraction, right? Good guy. He's doing the right thing by his shareholders. In fact, great guy. I admire him a lot. And but bound by his shareholders' commitments. So they can never say please trust me. Amazon can never say I care about humans. They don't. If they did, they would not fire 16,000 people. They would have retrained them. They would have led them into the economy in a better way, right? So they never did any of those things. So they can never say they are trustworthy. And we are building a trust layer. And then the third one is the customer. We have been talking about Angelic Intelligence since October of this year. Swaminathan sir, you will not believe this. Honest to God. We got 2 billion views on social media on this topic, on humanizing AI. Deeply resonating with people. And in fact, people are craving for it. It's deeply resonating with people. Okay, that's the consumer. Now the consumer are two types. Like one is the enterprise and one is the consumer. Now let's talk to the enterprise side of that. When you take an enterprise kind of view of the world and ask like enterprises, like, do you trust AI? You'll say absolutely not. 77% of enterprises don't trust AI. How can you trust AI? You tell me. Swaminathan like puts a message in the chatbot like ChatGPT or Anthropic and says, I need to interview Shekhar Natarajan. I want a list of questions. It'll give you a list of questions. And you say, are these questions great? It will say, Swaminathan, these questions are the most brilliant questions that you can ever come up with, and it is very provocative. And then you say, like, maybe I don't like these questions. What do you think about it? It says, you are absolutely right. It doesn't actually, like, relate to everything you're doing. So you cannot run the organization on the whims and fancies of, like, this thing hallucinating like this. The second thing is, what is the data source? The data source was like all of the public data.
Yeah.
Reasoning models were actually learning from the world, the outside world, because they did not have access to the inside world of the companies. People thought that, putting glue on a pizza was a very good thing, because there was a Reddit comment 12 years ago which said, like, putting a glue on the pizza will hold the cheese. And Gemini was recommending it till 6 months ago. If you ask Gemini, like, should I put like glue on the pizza? It'll say yes.
And that's because Reddit has actually sold all the
data.
content, and because they want
And
a
they trained
business
it,
model.
And they trained all of this.
Yeah.
And they trained all of this. So I think, like, so that is the second source of the problem. Now let's take the third source of the problem, right? Control. Who's training these models? If you haven't really lived an experience, how can you train the model? So can you imagine, like, people say like training AI is like training a kid. I think it's the opposite. It's like, taking the behavior of your mom and trying to make sense out of that, because it's nonsensical. Right? My mother had infinite love and she bet on my future, unknown future, and she stood for 365 days. Can any AI system train that? Not if you have not lived that context. And people who are training these models have never lived the complete life. They only know a sliver of the life. So that's why you have that problem. And then on top of it, there is a control problem. So I had this beautiful video where I showed, like, Mr. Musk and like Sam Altman as cavemen.
Yeah.
Fighting each other. It's a meme. It would just show that, like, we as humans have never evolved from being a caveman to a human today. After like many hundreds of thousands of years. Okay. So, because we like power, control and dominance. Artificial lines fighting, countries fighting, this fighting, resource fighting. Like, I want your land, I want your wealth, I want your resource, I want your saffron. All bullshit. Right? So we actually have this problem where we have a control issue, like who's training the models and like how is it going to behave. And if you ask, like, who's the best athlete in the world, it'll say Elon Musk in Grok. Is it really? Right? So that is another problem. And then we have fascinated by one size fits all. Whether it is a simple yes-no decision, I have to move a truck, I don't have to move a truck, I have to pay an invoice, I don't have to pay an invoice. These are like binary decisions. There's nothing like reasoning into this. Right? So these are all symbolic models. So why are we fascinated with frontier models when there are frontier models, when there are hierarchical reasoning models, when there are diffusion models, when there is basically like liquid neural networks? All of these solve different types of contextual problems. And there are different types of hardware. There's a TPU, there's a GPU, there's your cloud, there's your regular compute. Then there is like quantum. People can use all different flavors of like all of these like heterogeneous way of processing, but we're only promoting NVIDIA chips. We're only promoting ChatGPT and all these things as though that's the world, right? And it is not democratizable. So I feel like a confluence of all of this thing, the ability to not be consistent, not be reliable, not be democratic, being controlled, right? Not having the ability to configure what you want, what you believe in, uh, and the behaviors that these models actually exhibit, right? And oh, by the way, transformer technology is like electricity, like as I said, you cannot explain it, right? So when you have a black box and when you cannot explain, you think anyone is going to trust these models? So that is going to be a big like gap, and people wonder why there are not a lot of use cases because of all these things, right? So that's where trust is going to be the next frontier of AI and most consequential frontier of AI. Before you start talking about like super intelligence and all of those like nonsensical topics, let's build trust in the intelligence that we have. Let's basically consume with confidence, right? Let's consume knowing that my business reputation is going to be managed. I can put my child next to it, right? I'm going to make my life's decisions on this, right? When you're able to answer these three questions without any hesitation, then we have arrived on the intelligence journey. Till then, it's like a hype and it's just like fantasy.
ContraMinds is a podcast dedicated to decoding people, minds, strategy, and culture. We interview and learn from high performers so that you can apply these lessons on your journey to becoming the knowledge worker athlete you were meant to be. The ContraMinds podcast is available on all leading podcast players, and if you are interested in revisiting past episodes or taking a look at our show notes from this episode, please visit us at www.contraminds.com. And now, back to the show.
So, from an orchestra.ai perspective, you seem to be solving a lot of supply chain problems.
Yeah.
So, I picked up a lot of use cases that you talked about, which is really, in retail, for example, the wastage that happens because of food or because of returns, because of, problem of abundance and therefore, issues with wastage. Okay. So you really are talking about the decision that you need to take either in healthcare or in say CPG or e-commerce or whatever that you call it. There's a certain amount of contextualization of the organization and leaving the decision and the judgment to the humans also as one of the aspects. Is that the virtue and the trust layer that you're talking about, which is to say, you know what, you can create a AI platform that does all this, but also takes into consideration the fact that it's an open platform. It also has the trust layer of how sustainability is important, how human flourishing is critical. And therefore, I have open APIs which can be consumed by NGOs and, based on what my, corporate objectives are. Is that the kind of a platform that is? So is it a competing platform with these companies, or is it almost like an enterprise application that is it almost like the oracle of AI, okay, of the ERP era, right? Is that how you are envisaging orchestra.ai?
So see, when I started talking about angelic intelligence, people ask me one fundamental question. They said like, morality everyone loves but no one pays, right? Humanity everyone talks but no one contributes. Sometimes they do, but like not mostly, right? Like it's always like, what is in it for me?
Correct.
Okay. In a and supply chains in general, and people don't know this as much. in supply chains are actually the third biggest nation in the world.
Oh, is it?
So if you take the number of people employed in a supply chain worldwide, manufacturing raw materials all the way to basically getting it into your hands, is 550 million people.
Okay.
Okay, there are only two big countries besides that, India and China. Okay, deeply humanic in nature. And this cup is miraculous that it shows up the way it shows up, despite all of the drama that it goes through. Right? You take a can of pear, dole pear. It's actually grown in Chile, cut in Bangkok, packaged in China, shows up in New York, 20 cents. 20,000 miles. How does that happen? And people like bitch about like the fact that like that can didn't show up. And I'm like, 99 other cans showed up. How? Right? So, that is the power of supply chain.
Yeah.
Actually. So, and it only works because of the human ingenuity here in this process. The humans like don't want to disappoint the other human. Okay. In all of this, there is a lot of waste. Right? So imagine there is a waste angel. The waste angel is just looking for all the opportunities of waste everywhere, whether it is in your manufacturing process, distribution process, delivery process, and humans are all there. And you want to, and I firmly believe that when you do right by everyone, profits are not in conflicts with doing right. The definition of right is it's right for everyone holistically. So and so that was the primary reason. The early genesis of this is in logistics, and I was built in logistics. I was built in operations, and I'm a technologist. I've worked in consumer, I've worked in all these different retail and everything. So so basically my knitting is that. And so I started there. But we were fully conscious that the layer that we are trying to build is a universal layer. A banker is a banker, a doctor is a doctor, but both are humans.
Yeah.
Right? And when both are humans, and the way they behave, compassion, is different, from a lens of a doctor than is a lens of a banker. How do you create that, framework that you can manage this for? So that, in essence, actually helps you solve this conundrum of how do I optimize for decisions in a company that is reflective of humanic behavior.
In fact, the question was, could Angelic Intelligence prevent predatory lending, okay, by embedding fairness into underwriting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So is that the approach that you are taking?
Yes.
Or, for example, you could actually say, therefore, Angelic Intelligence is almost like the operating system for organizational decision making.
Yes.
Is that the kind of pitch that you are actually looking at?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, one step beyond that. So whether we like it or not, the world is going to be like a confluence of physical workers and digital workers, just like the digital and the physical has played a role in our life.
Correct.
You're going to have a digital guy and you want to also have a physical guy. And there's going to be a constant handover between the physical and the digital in a workplace. And when you introduce machines, cognitively you become more lazy. Right? And also you lose the sense of the context. What tends to happen is basically there is degradation and lack of understanding of who made the decision and was it human in the first place. Right? How do you create a human index in each of these. What is a human index, right? And it's based on the short term versus the long term, whether it helps, like, whether it had empathy in it, whether it basically, like, was built with the right kind of fairness, like, angle associated with it.
Yeah.
All of these things are actually very critical to understanding how was the decision arrived, and can you explain it? Not just log it.
Yeah.
Can you explain it? Okay. So that human index thinking that I'm talking about is at the heart of the thing that I'm building, because I imagine a world where many companies will have very few people working for them, and they'll have a lot of digital assistants being, like, embedded in the process.
Yeah.
Now, when I'm interacting as a consumer with that, first thing is I will feel you cheated me,
Yeah.
right? Or your decision is, like, against, like,
The philosophy of the company.
yeah, and the incentives and everything. And the company had a culture structure.
Yeah.
The company had, like, certain values it actually ascribed to. Now I have digital workers and I have, like, some physical workers. The new physical workers are basically going to be much more savvier. So the traditional guys are all gone. Right? They are digitally more native. They are more, like,
True.
AI centric in the world and other things. So that workforce may not, like, have the same understanding and the cultural aspiration of the company itself.
Yeah. True.
So how do you retain all of this in the world of AI? Let's not call it AI. In the world of intelligence delivery,
Correct.
right? So I think that is a problem that I see coming. And so we are building layer by layer, step by step into this process, right? The first step we basically say is we'll act like a proxy. Everything that goes out, we actually take all of your values, like, and embed into it. And as soon as everything comes back, we just, like, filter it and make sure, like, your decisions are consistent with the organizational values. Now, the second thing is we basically start, like, training the digital worker to, like, have that human like thinking. That way we can understand what was made by humans, what was made by machines. Now, and the handoff, and the kind of, like, wherever there is a sort of a handbrake, give it to the human, take it to the machine, give it to the human, take it to the machine, let it learn. How do we evolve, right? How do I explain? That's the second step of this. And then devolving ourselves deeper and deeper into the model layer, right? Because I feel the world is not going to be built with a lot of big models. It will be built with domain specific small SLMs, right? So we want to basically play the long game, where we know it is going to be an endless aisle of SLMs.
So what's an SLM?
A small language model.
Okay.
Like a small language model would be like, parcel delivery, like, supply chains, right? Factory manufacturing is different than the distribution.
Yeah.
And then shipping, and then warehousing, and then parcel delivery, and, like, or traditional, like, over the road transportation delivery, right? So these are all
multiple SLMs will actually decide how the experience is.
Yes.
And the experience sometimes need not be only optimization, but it can be, in fact, enhanced value also.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you will find sources of value creation. Like, whenever a beautiful technology comes, there are two things which happen. One is the value transfer, and the second is the value creation. The value transfer is simply saying that, like, I can do this better and someone else is doing it on my behalf. Value creation is on the edges, the reshuffling of the value chain. And, like, new actors show up performing things, taking out the dark spots, making it brighter, and creating value out of it.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. I think now that we have spoken about this whole Angelic Intelligence platform, I certainly believe the number of SLMs that every organization will build, and probably multiple SLMs will keep talking to multiple SLMs across companies, and therefore there'll be a whole network of networks. So AI itself will become a network of networks. and with the trust layer is really how you are envisioning that.
Yeah, and it's like almost like a topology, right? Like, if you think about it, like, and people can also discover, if I'm a small business, I can create my own operating system, right? And basically, like, there'll not be like it's not going to be too out in the future where you would basically say, hey, I got this business idea and I want to basically, like, foundationally, like, I'll ask a question, it will go into the ether to find all agents, semantically look at it like almost like a topological graph, and say, like, what makes sense, and I'll start like combining them into the right sequence, into the right workflows, and I'll do all of this and all the beautiful things. And you, as a business person, just like be a business person, don't worry about all the things, everything will be done. That is the world we are headed, right? So in that world, I think, like, the way you think about even the discovery of the
Yeah.
SLMs and the agents and the agentic networks, right, that can be created on the fly. It's almost like runtime execution of like these workflows and these agents, digital workers, so to say, that will perform all these activities. Now, what you need to know as a business person is what to optimize and what not to optimize.
Yeah.
If it's creative optimization without any rails, you would basically get into deep shit.
Yeah.
So that's where, like, as a business person, you need to know like what is admissible,
Yeah.
right? And so the role of a leader is to clearly define that boundary.
Yeah. That is really the core of angelic intelligence, because everywhere it goes back to the core ethos, the value systems, the beliefs, the moral values. And the moral values can be different for different people, but it is in the context of my function, my department, my company, okay, my region, my country. Okay, and therefore there'll be multiple SLMs running for the same organization depending on the region, depending on the cultural ethos, and that's really the network of networks one is talking about.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So the reason why I laugh is there was this beautiful Coca-Cola ad. When Coke entered Middle East, there was an ad, a beautiful ad. So it was actually a print ad, by the way.
Okay.
Okay, so 3 like postcards or 3 pictures. The first is the guy is very tired. Okay, and he's basically he's almost about to drop in the desert. The second is he gets like a can of Coke, so and he drinks it. A third is like he's like standing up and running. Okay, that works for the Western culture. Okay, because you read like this. But it was a disastrous ad when it came to Middle East.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're reading like this. So what it means is the guy was standing, drank Coke, and he fell down dead. So understanding that nuance
Is very critical.
is very critical. Very critical. Like, what makes a culture a culture? We are all as distinct as our fingerprints.
Yeah.
Right? And so a generalized thinking, a generalized model, a generalized way of, like, delivering intelligence and calling it like, super intelligence is bullshit. Because we were created different.
Yeah. So everybody is unique, and therefore you need to have it. So now I have a couple of questions,
Sure.
Which is around what drives you as a professional. And I have a couple of interesting questions given your background. Okay. You have reinvented yourself. I've read about your, work right from the magic band of Disney to what you did at Coke, what you did at Walmart. So, and I know you are a supply chain specialist with a lot of innovations that you have done, right? You have reinvented yourself multiple times. How do you know when you are ready to evolve versus when you are just bored?
Oh my God. It's a great question. It's the DNA and the makeup. People ask me, how do you define poverty? And people like they say poverty means like you're poor. and you don't have access to money. Your parent had to sacrifice this. Your grandmother got had to sacrifice her life because you had to go to this. And it's none of that. Poverty is being invisible to people. Like they will look at you, but you don't exist.
Exactly.
Right? So that is what I experienced. And when you experience that enough times in your life, you want to believe that that is your origin story. And in your mind, you build up the dreamland of the destination in your head. And when you don't harness that right, you choke. And so when I went to United States, I felt this like sort of liberation in my life. And I went to the top university. Then I started believing in myself. And when I got acquired on that knowledge that I had, that the confidence and the knowledge, it was a powerful combo, right? And I never wanted to give up that ever in my life. So I always kept searching for like those two things. What can I learn? And how do I constantly learn and unlearn and relearn things? Always. So if you look at like the number of jobs I had in my corporate life, I worked for 5 companies in 23 years. So average, like basically I spent like 4.5, 5 years. The impact I made was like significant in each of these companies. It was not because I was seeking for promotion or more money, and that came.
Yeah.
That came, right? So when I landed in United States, I had this belief that like, everything that God has provided me and all the context that God has given me and everything that had happened, I'm here. And I don't want to ruin this situation and the moment I have. And can I continue to like build on this constantly, right? Because if I don't, I'll go back to that old world. So that reminder that like, I don't want to go back, it's sort of like insecurity, right? Like you don't want to go back to that context because you know how it feels. You know like how it feels to be like very like a choker. So that insecurity in me drove my learning, unlearning and relearning.
Interesting. And you talked about the 8-year learning journey that you did.
Yes.
So can you talk to me about it, because it's very interesting for me.
Yes. So
And that's after how many years of working?
I started working in 2003 officially, right? So very glad that you brought up that story. And there are only 3 people in my life that I would credit my success to. Okay, first is my wife. Incredible strength. Like you cannot do jack shit if your wife is not supportive.
Absolutely.
Right? And people think like, being married to someone is basically like becoming risk averse. I say it is the opposite. If you have the right person in your life, they give you all the ammunition to take all the risk in the life. Right? So that's number one. The second person is my brother. A brilliant guy. I can have a conversation about highs and lows of life and what it means and other things, and he would help me just navigate it all. Like he would have techniques for everything, like like if you're down, do this, if you have time, do that, like everything, right? So my brother, eldest brother, is the second one, and the third one is Dr. Richard Muther. It is not a university. In 2003 and 4, when I started working for Coke, we were trying to figure out, at that time, new planning systems came about. The whole network strategy was a very emergent field. Till then, everyone was planning, forecasting, like, supply and demand. And then they did not pay any attention to topology, which is like the art of flowing things. Like, how do you set up the infrastructure that way you could float like water?
Okay.
Right? So so I start doing this, and We put like, an AIX machine at that time with like, 6 parallel processors. So we could run like 6 different scenarios for Coke. And it was about sourcing the product, where to make it, how to make it, how much to make. And that has to be so precise because budgets rely on that. And so whatever I did had consequences. Okay, because some plant manager, his job is dependent on the fact that that fellow's budget is that. Okay, so and I struggled quite a bit trying to implement it. So I took the help of my mentor, Lee Hales, and he ended up. He's a very phenomenal guy, practitioner, and he trained me on a planning process which could help you plan anything, like based on 3 fundamentals, first principles, and all of that. So we started applying it, and that project became a very big success. And in fact, Managestics, I was a poster child of Managestics, and they would take me to talk to every customer because of the success we had, and I was drinking the Kool-Aid, like being the kind of like the glittery boy, like on the, even like when you're a kid, like
you are in every summit.
yeah, like people, and I was enjoying and rejoicing, like imagine, right, like someone who never, like you were invisible and all of a sudden you become visible. Oh wow, like this is so like gratifying, in life. So anyway, I decided to do something. I said, like the struggles I went through, I don't want any other kid to go through that. So I started writing a book along with Lee. And we finished the book, and that was the 50th year of like Richard Mutter and Associates. And Dr. Richard Mutter is the founding father of industrial engineering.
Okay.
So he is the guy who actually trained the People's Republic of China when it opened up to the world on how to set up industrial facilities, which is still used today.
Okay.
So he was flown into China, every city, and he would train all of the industrial engineers on all facets of facility management. How do you build a plant? How do you like organize? What is the layout? What are the mechanization needed? He's written 17 books. He's won Gilbreth Award, which is the highest honor in industrial engineering. And it was the 50th year, and Lee Hales was running his company because he was his mentee. So we all like, were bragging, hey, this is our book. It's called Systematic Network Planning, and like it's available now on Amazon, all that stuff. He looked at the book and he said, this is garbage. Unvarnished, okay? He said, and like we were like, and it was in front of everyone. It was,
Yeah.
so but like he was 91 years old at that time. Like you though you have ego, like you have to just play it low. So I said, how can I make this better? What do you think is bad? He said, you're not a purist. So I said, so what do I do? He said, like, come to Kansas City and we'll sit and talk. So the next thing I do is I take a flight right after that, and I go and sit with him. And he started explaining how he thinks, the way he thinks, why he thinks the way he thinks. Why is there 3 fundamentals and not like 5? Like, how do you distill a problem down? How you could distill any problem down, any problem in the world, into 3 fundamentals. And it was super fascinating for me. And I asked him a simple question. Can I come here frequently? He said, yes, anytime you want. Only 2 conditions. I don't want you to stay in my house. Because everyone who knew Richard Mutter would come and stay at his house and get trained, and then they would leave. But Louise was already 88 years old, his wife, and Sir Richard Mutter was already 92 years old. Okay, so neither I wanted to be an encumbrance on him. But he said, I will give you my car. You have to pay for your hotel. You can come get like breakfast, lunch and dinner on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I will train you for next 8 years. And I used to make $3,400 a month after taxes. $1,700 I used to spend going every other weekend to his house. So my bank balance literally used to be 0 for 8 years. 0. Like money I had went to my mom and dad and my brothers. Some for my, taking care of my life. But the 8 years that I spent with him was the best 8 years of my life. Two things he taught me: that excellence is a journey. It's a journey. You never arrive to be excellent, right? Just when you think that you have arrived, then it is a time for reinnovation, a reinvention. So, and he used to famously talk about this picture he used to have on his table. It was his actual painting, along with his like overseeing his admin in tears. And on that, it used to say, "This is good, but can be better." Right? Such a subtle thought, right?
Yeah.
Such a subtle thought that, like, never be happy, because excellence is a journey and you can constantly evolve. And so, those are the lessons of life that I was fortunate to have.
It was almost like a university. And this is after how many years of work experience?
So I started working in 2003, and then from 2006 I started going there to his house. So 4 years into my professional life, and I spent another 8 years. So almost like, let's say, like, the 12 years of my life, of my professional life, my bank balance was zero.
Yeah, and more importantly, you spent money yourself after work, and you trained yourself, and therefore today, can I therefore call this the invisible mark of effort that you put in those 8 years has become the value after so many years for you?
See, no one thinks about anyone in the world except you yourself. So we should stop assuming that a company is going to train you. You're going to get a scholarship. Your spouse is going to, approve of you doing this. Or like some third Tom, Dick and Harry is going to do that for you. Never that. You're only responsible for your life, no?
Absolutely.
Right? So, the consequences of not doing that is everyone will be shaken up at some point in time in their life. And that is not the time you realize that you need to invest in yourself. That's too late. It's too late.
Yeah.
You don't wake up at the age 60 to say, I want to have like savings now. You have to start like saving at the age 20. Only then you can save, like, when you can have like a good life at age 60.
So like how you save money and it compounds.
Knowledge
compounds. And that's really what you did, Shekhar, right? And I'm just coming to my final question.
Yes.
If you were designing the ideal knowledge worker for 2030,
2030.
what capabilities would you embed for most professionals that are not there today and you would want them to have? And therefore, they become the best professionals of that time. What are the skills that you think are critical?
Well, I think life always goes in full circle. Right? So we, in our lives, started as curious people and artisans and craftsmen. And then we relied on our cognitive and our ability to create science out of the art. Right? To explain the unexplainable.
Yeah.
Like, we were always fascinated by the things that we never saw.
Correct.
In life. Whether it is going to Mars, moon, all that stuff. The scientific, like that stuff happens. And along that journey, as we started like making machines look like humans, we have turned into a little bit of robot. Right? And now the robots are going to take over our lives. Right? So machines will do all of the scientific things, all of the
drug discoveries and all those kinds of things that they talk about.
Right? So now we are back to the we came back all around, and like we have to think about craft. and the mastery of craft.
Mm.
So it's like always like life is all full circle, no?
Yeah.
So where you started your humankind is where we are actually headed back, which is like focus on like being really excellent in what you do.
Mm.
So you have to really craft, think about the perfection of the craft. So I think that is a very important skill that we need to have. The second thing that we all need to have is basically we need to go back to the world of that curiosity that made us who we were at the age of 3,
Mm.
and being able to like not give up our conscious brain.
Mm.
Right, like where I'm deeply disturbed with the way the world is going is we have stopped using our brain and started asking machines to make decisions on our behalf.
Mm.
And the more we get addicted to machines, the more we get addicted to things in life, the more we are at the risk of losing our cognitive capability. Your brain is conditioned to like think about this monotonous way of doing things, and that becomes your like subconscious way of processing things. And when machines do that at like a spectrum of all things, and your machine, you're dependent so much on machines that like you begin to like forget the cognitive.
Yeah.
Right, so there's a cognitive degeneration, and then you will become what the scientists never wanted you to be. The artificial intelligence researchers and scientists never aspired you to be that, which is you become the robot.
Yeah.
And there is no training you, because you are built like 10, 20, 30, 40, depending on your age. You have built your entire makeup of your system. Unlearning that system is like complicated to hell.
Close to impossible.
Very impossible. Like ask a guy who's worked in a company for 20 years and tell him to do something different. He will resist like to hell,
Yeah.
because their way of doing things, they feel like threatened.
Yeah.
Right? So this is psychology.
Yeah.
Obviously, when people have in the world of this artificial intelligence and where world is headed, the biggest risk to humanity is humans.
Mm.
Right, is not like machines, is humans. If you look at like the worst criminals of the world, the guys who are actually in scams, the guys who basically are thinking about deep fakes and all kinds of like shady things like the hacking and other things, who are they? They're extremely smart people, misguided. Right? And so if we are not careful, and if we create an unequal or unequal society, a society of haves and have-nots, and you create this bipolarity of system, that the wealth is with 1% and 99% of the people have a lot of time in the hand and are actually getting they want like free money or fast money. Then there is a society risk which is going to get created, which is going to exasperate this malicious behavior.
And I think that's really where the angelic intelligence layer is going to be very critical as a trust layer.
Because it shows you a mirror.
Exactly. And if you don't have your cognitive capability, then you can't outsource your thinking to a machine.
Yes.
And therefore, you have to be ready with your mental skills. And therefore, your resilience and perseverance to actually keep doing it repeatedly is also important. Therefore, those are the skills that you need to build, and therefore be a craftsman of your profession is really what is also critical as you automate.
Absolutely.
I think that's really what you're talking about.
Absolutely. So I don't know if you have done some of these things. Every 12 to 18 months I actually take a 3-week vacation. And so I actually do Vipassana, and I also do a lot of Ayurvedic treatment, in the sense I go for a retreat and I spend my time for myself. So the reason why I bring that up is practicing detachment and practicing like being offline is so critical for our ability to reset, right? And that is something I would actually like ask everyone to figure out in their life.
Fantastic. So here is somebody who's probably built the most sophisticated automation systems, somebody who's building a groundbreaking artificial intelligence platform, actually giving an advice saying that, in some parts of your, life in a year, just get offline so that you just get grounded, get refreshed and come back. You will get to do a lot better yourself, at your work and in your profession.
Absolutely. So because, the amount of focus and the amount of the ability to be meditative. See, meditation is something that is not temporal, and it is not like event based. It is a practice, right? Meditation is a practice. And there should be systems, I feel strongly, in the future that actually says how much time are you really spending on social media, on interactivity, and this dopamine that is like creating you to access the same information over and over again, skipping through the reels, and all of this nonsense, like the disinformation that comes with it. So we lose our cognitive to say like what is right, what is wrong in all of this, because we are so much like just consuming without even like reflecting. So that time gives you the ability to also reflect a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right? So that is very critical. And I feel like every individual who's aspiring to be very successful in the future has to practice this. Do whatever that is there that decompresses you. Just go offline. Right? Call it your time. Right? So surrendering yourself to the nature is the best form of meditation.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Shekhar. I think the conversation was deeply inspirational. Lot of ideas and thoughts really connected with me, and I truly believe some of the steps that you explained, the way you put it out there, the way you beautifully drew a kind of a diagram, spatial diagram, I were to call it, mental diagram, was fantastic. The examples were really, really brilliant. And thanks for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to this episode. For selected links and detailed show notes, visit www.contraminds.com. Follow ContraMinds on social media and let us know who you would like to see next on the podcast. If you're listening to ContraMinds on Apple Podcasts, do share your comments and give us a rating. We are keen to know what you're thinking. ContraMinds is also on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and stay up to date on all our releases. Thanks for listening and stay safe.